5 years ago, I arranged and released the ultimate Bond theme. This was an arrangement of Adele's Skyfall theme, accompanied by quotes from all of the other Bond films throughout history. It's a really dense arrangement. There's so many little Easter eggs and nuggets in there. And I figured it was time, 5 years down the line, to give you a little overview. I say a little overview, to give you a big delve into this arrangement and just show you where all these quotes are, all of the things that were going on, try and remember what I was thinking at the time. And I'm really excited to share this with you. Now, at the end of the video, I laid out a challenge to you, the viewer, telling you that there was a theme missing from the quotes in this arrangement. One of the main films from the Bond series is not represented. Someone did work it out in the comments and they received their prize, but now it's your turn to find out what that theme was, and also we're going to do something quite fun with it, so do stick around for that. So we're going to work through the quotes in chronological order, starting with Dr. No and ending with No Time to Die, all of the main Eon Productions films, and then we're going to circle back. There's some bonus tracks, there's some little Easter eggs, and we're going to delve right in. We're going to uncover all of this stuff, and it's going to be really fun. We begin, of course, with Dr. No, the first film, theme by Monty Norman, John Barry, surfy guitar, big band shout chorus, big vibe, everyone knows it. We begin with the iconic guitar riff. I probably don't need to play it to you, but it sounds like this. That is the bit of the riff that we're quoting, with the little turnaround at the end there, and it sounds like this in our arrangement. Very, very slow. Obviously, Skyfall is very slow. Let's go. Now, it's buried quite deep in the arrangement. It's panned at about 2 o'clock, and it comes in the breakdown section before the bridge, so it's all quite washy. There's a lot going on, but here it is in context. And the second quote from the Dr. No theme is the classic big horn line shout chorus. Here's the original. Now, I've quoted this wrong on purpose for the first time, going from the minor 7 to the major 6 instead of the major 7 to the minor 7, which is what it should be, but I redeemed myself on the second quotation, where it is the correct one. I don't need to play this quote on its own for you. I'm sure you'll be able to hear it. It's in the horns and the saxes and the strings. That's just before the outro, end of the last chorus. And then it happens again right at the end in the trumpets, quite loud where it should be. They're on the left. Have a listen. And then the final quote is the big stabs. Something I noticed when I was doing the research for this project was that every Bond film seemed to do a slightly different harmonisation of that last one. So for my arrangement, put my own flair on it, stuck a whole tone scale in, which you can hear in the horn. Let me play you the horn on its own. And then in context. I believe that final chord contains every note from the chromatic scale. I was quite into my trying to use every note in some chords back then, from what I remember. Film number 2 is from Russia with Love, the theme song sung by Matt Monro, and it has my personal favourite intro to any of the Bond songs. Super lush rising and falling strings with some descending low brass, and I had to put it in as the intro to this arrangement. So you'll hear the strings, you'll hear the trombones, bit of horn, bit of suspended cymbal. This is the original.
From Russia.
That tambourine there as well is sick. So here's my version. Direct transcription happens to also be the same key, which is quite nice. With a little piano extra bit in there, just a little added flair. Third up is possibly one of the most iconic films and themes. It's Goldfinger, Shirley Bassey, stunning tune, quoted all the time. It appears in multiple Bond themes across the ages. But the first quote from this, I'm actually listening back, I'm convinced no one's ever going to hear this, but it appears in the viola and cello, lower strings. If we listen to the Goldfinger quote, which we're using, there's the two parts. There's the horn, wah, 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 and then there's the ba-da-da-ba-dum in the strings. I'm sure you know it. And it's that string bit that we're interested in for this first quote. It happens in the strings here in the first chorus. And then again a bit later. Although it's probably more of a mixing thing. My mixing skills 5 years ago probably couldn't handle this arrangement. But here we go. See if you can hear it. Low down. It's on beat 4 of the bar. Here we go. And again here. Can you hear it? Probably not. Can you imagine what it sounds like while you're listening along? Maybe. Well, that's the first time golfing is quoted, but then there is a much more obvious quote right at the end, the final outro after the last chorus, the big moment where those trumpets come in on that wah, wah, wah. Better that I play it from the computer than I sing it. Sounds fantastic. That shift from the C major to the A flat major. Then the horn plays the E natural on that A flat major, making it a crunchy augmented chord. It's so sick. John Barry was a genius. Film number 4 is Thunderball, the Tom Jones song with the super long note at the end. And it's got huge brass in it again. Obviously John Barry drawing on the success of Goldfinger as a thing and really leaning into that huge sound. The quote we're quoting is actually a quote of the original Bond theme. Here's the section that we're quoting. It's the massive trumpet line. That trumpet line is definitely a quote or a sort of reference to the original line from the Dr. No theme, this one. But just slightly changed the notes. So we're quoting a quote of a quote, and my version is more subdued, still plunger trumpets, but quite subtly filling in the gaps in the vocals in the second verse. Here it is on its own. And here it is in context.
This moment, so overdue, I owe them.
Film number 5 is You Only Live Twice, sung by Nancy Sinatra, and what we've taken from this is the big sweeping string ostinato. You'll hear it. Now this goes in slightly twisted, slightly forcing a square peg into a round hole here, but we've changed the harmonic structure of that line so that it fits over the minor chord of the chorus, and it's just the big string line over the top of the whole thing. Here it is on its own. And in context. The 6th film is On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Now this is the instrumental theme with loads of synths in it. It's quite fun, very driving, and this is the quote we're using. Don't need to give you it on its own because it's very loud and proud just before the vocals come in the first verse. Here it is. Seventh up is another classic Shirley Bassey, Diamonds Are Forever, slightly ethereal, sparkly, twinkly, word painty intro, which sounds like this.
Diamonds are forever.
Truly stunning. And we've taken that diamond lick, if you like, and stuck it over the first and third choruses. If You Only Live Twice is the second chorus, these take on that role. I don't think I need to play it on its own. I think you'll get it from the context. And then it comes again later on in the arrangement as well. Coming in at film number 8 is Live and Let Die, with a theme by Paul McCartney and Wings. The weird kind of epic drama mixed with a weird reggae breakdown. It's a bit of a mess, but it's also iconic and very cool. I like it. This one was actually quite a hard one to sneak a quote in. Lots of ideas going on in the original, but none of them really were fitting. So I managed to sneak in a slightly twisted harmony version of this bit of Live and Let Die, the backing vocals in particular. And I snuck it in the trombones in the second chorus. Here it is. Which in context sounds like this. Easily missed. The Man with the Golden Gun, film number 9. Not Lulu's best work, I don't think. Bit of a mess of a tune, but had to stick it in there somewhere, so I took the first line of the first verse, stuck it in there, shoehorned it right in. Here it is. It comes halfway through the first verse, leading into the second half of it. The last couple bars, here it is. And in context, next up is film number 10, The Spy Who Loved Me, with a theme by Carly Simon called Nobody Does It Better, which arguably has one of the most recognisable intros to a Bond song, with this little piano riff here. This was a really hard one to get in as well. I did really bastardise the harmony of that intro there, and we've slotted it in the piano, coming out of the second chorus into the breakdown. Definitely one of the harder ones to hear. Here it is in context. Now we come to film number 11 and my personal favourite Bond theme. It's Moonraker. Definitely not everyone's favourite Bond theme, but there's something about it I just really love. It's so different to all the other ones. It's so grandiose and floaty, and just the orchestration is fantastic. And Shirley Bassey, of course, singing, can't go wrong. So this is Moonraker, and I've quoted this a couple times because I like it so much. So within this snippet, there are two things that I'm quoting. There's the melody that Shirley Bassey is singing, and then there is the little string figure, which you hear kind of at the end of the phrase. Like that. Terrible singing. Listen to the strings play it. So we're quoting the strings as well as the vocal line. And the first strings quote of that bit is in the first chorus, coming out at the end of the Diamonds Are Forever ostinato, going into this. Not the most in tune thing in the world, but it works in context. It's fine. We were all getting used to recording at home at the time, so here it is in context. Then the other half of it is the melody, which comes in the horn and strings in the second chorus. Here it is. And it comes in again here. Here it is in context. And again here. Just lovely, and orchestrating horns and high cellos. Such an elite orchestral combo. S tier. The 12th film is For Your Eyes Only, with a theme by Sheena Easton, and this one, the quote is in the little section between the first chorus and the second verse, using that descending fifth motif, which you hear in the top of the tune. Here's the original.
For your eyes only can see me through.
And then these little synth bits as well.
For
Here it is in context. I'm sure you'll be able to hear it.
Skyfall is where we start.
With some really fun pizzicato strings. Now we get to unlucky film number 13. It's Octopussy. The theme, All Time High by Rita Coolidge, does not feature in my original arrangement. It's the one that I left out as a little challenge. But I've gone back into the arrangement and I've found a spot for it. I found somewhere that works nicely without it being too shoehorned. Honestly, the arrangements are actually so packed, it was really quite hard to find a suitable place. Here is the original song, the bit that I'm going to quote. It's the lead up into the chorus.
We're an all-time high.
And here is where it's going to go in the arrangement.
Put your hand in my hand and we'll stay.
I think that works actually quite nicely. Back in the room, film 14, A View to a Kill. Very 80s, Duran Duran. This is a great theme. I really like this one. The production on it's pretty sick. And it's got all these crazy stabs. But before we get to the stabs, we've got to quote the chorus hook because it's quite a poppy one, fits quite nicely. Dance into the fire. Let's play the original for you rather than me singing that atrociously.
Until we dance into the fire.
Which we've quoted in the saxophones here in the second chorus. You can hear in context here. The other thing from this that we quote is those cool, fantastic stabs that really define this tune for me, I think. Here they are. There's a few different variations throughout the song, so I've quoted a few different variations in this arrangement. The first is kind of trumpet, drums, piano, big stabs, very obvious, can't miss them. I'll give you a couple beats in.
Where you go, I go.
Little bit laboured at this tempo, but you know, we move. And then they come back again in the final chorus, just in the trumpet, see if you can hear them. The 15th film is The Living Daylights with a theme by Aha, and we take the first bit of the chorus, the little vocal line, no lyrics to it, just whoa. The Living Daylights, it's just the whoa bit, here it is in the original form. And we've stuck it in the trumpets in the final chorus, here they are. And here they are in context, bar in. License to Kill, big gospel soul-y number from Gladys Knight. It is kind of like Goldfinger Take 2, but at the same time it is still pretty sick. It's a very powerful tune. I used to love this one when I was younger. I used to love the heaviness of it. So the thing that differentiates this tune from Goldfinger is the little wraparound string and horn line. So it goes wah wah ba da 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 da. Like that. Have a listen here. I'm going to truncate it a little bit just so that I don't get in trouble. And this does a couple of things, whereas Goldfinger, you've got on that second chord, the lower chord, there's a bit of tension going on when the trumpets respond with wah wah wah. Whereas in this tune, that line very much fits with the chords. But when we quote this in my arrangement, they all go in together on top of each other, and we're getting both the tension and the fitting in with the chords, and it had to be done. But the first time that we quote it is just one moment, one short little bit of that, and that is here. Which in context sounds like this.
Where worlds collide and days are dark, you may have my number.
Then of course we smash this together with Goldfinger, just like everybody wants us to do in the outro, when we suddenly go for a major kind of thing instead of the minor from the Skyfall tune. Here it is. Can't miss it. Just like that. Film number 17, this is probably one of my personal favourite tunes, GoldenEye, Tina Turner, and this one's been right under your nose the whole time. In the intro is the pizzicato string ostinato. Here is the original.
GoldenEye, I found his weakness. GoldenEye.
You can hear it quite clearly in the cello and bass leading into every other bar in the first verse. Here it is. quite nice that we're back on this side of the camera angle situation for this film, because we've already heard these quotes 2 films ago. License to Kill. Underneath all of that high string stuff, we've got a nice bit cello, bit lower strings going on. Here is what we're quoting from Tomorrow Never Dies. This is my second favourite Bond song intro, although I'm taking this from further in because it's got context. It's such a sick intro. When it comes in on the very top of the tune and you don't have the reference for the 6/8 feel yet, and then it drops into the 6/8, it is a bit of a moment. It's fantastic. Do go check it out. But here is the quote. It's in the cello, only ever in the cello, and it appears for the first time in the second verse. There we are. Just a little hint of it. That sounds like this in context.
Worlds collide and days are dark. You may have my number.
But then it's a lot more prominent in the second chorus underneath Gladys Knight once again. Here it is on its own. Had to slightly edit it so that it fit over a 4/4 thing instead of 6/8. Here it is in context. See if you can hear it. It's kind of on the left. I was quite proud of sneaking that one in. Film number 19, The World Is Not Enough, with a theme by Garbage. Turned out to be quite quotable, quite easy to slot into this arrangement. So I've actually used 2 bits of the original tune. Here's the first part that I'm quoting. It's the string line that you're hearing over the vocals. And that can be heard at 3 points in this arrangement. Here's the first instance in the strings, which sounds like this in context. It appears again later on in the arrangement in the last chorus. It's kind of a turnaround figure for the Diamonds Are Forever riff going on over the top. And then it happens again at the end of that chorus. The other phrase that I'm quoting is from the second half of the chorus, which is the slightly rhythmically condensed version of The World Is Not Enough hook. And that appears here in the horns and tenor sax, which sounds like this in context.
Where worlds collide and days are dark.
Lovely stuff. Film number 20, Die Another Day, the old Pierce Brosnan number. Bit more futuristic. The theme is very futuristic. Here is what we're quoting. We're just quoting the very top of the verse.
I'm gonna wake up, yes and no.
Yeah, the digital silence doesn't really do it for me. But anyway, we stuck it in and it sounds very different in my context. It sounds a lot more smooth. We've kind of twisted the melody a little bit as well, so it fits. It's in the horns and the cellos in the bridge. Here it is. And in context for you.
I go, what you see, I see. I know I'll never be.
It also comes again, there's soprano sax on this as well, a little bit higher timbre. Here it is.
Loving arms are keeping me from harm. But you're
Film number 21, it's the start of the Daniel Craig Bond era. It's the first Bond film I saw in the cinema when I was a young lad. And it's got a heavy rock theme by Chris Cornell of Soundgarden and Chris Cornell fame. It starts with this huge guitar riff, which I remember in the cinema being really wowed by. But we've very much toned that guitar riff down for my quote. So here is the original. And here's what I've done with it. Put it in the saxes, turned it right down. Here we go. Extended it slightly, repeated it a few more times as well. Here it is in context. It's the second verse.
where we start. 1,000 miles and poles apart.
And then that little ba-da-da-da-da-da-dum comes back again in the horns and trumpets in the second chorus. Sounds like this in context. Film number 22 is Quantum of Solace, theme by Jack White and Alicia Keys, called Another Way to Die, which is arguably a better name for a Bond film than Quantum of Solace. Anyway, I've quoted 2 bits from this song. The first one is this little piano motif here. And that happens in the Hag after the first chorus, before the second verse. It's in the soprano sax and you can't miss it. And then the other bit is the opening riff, the opening guitar riff, really heavy. Here it is. That appears in a very different guise in my arrangement. Very soft little bell effect and some cup muted trumpets with a little alternate fingering thing going on as well. Very nice. Here it is on its own. And here it is in context. I'll give you a bar in.
1,000 miles and poles apart.
Beautiful. Film number 23 is Skyfall, which is obviously the entire arrangement, so no need to go into where that's being quoted. So let's move on to film number 24, which is Spectre and Sam Smith's theme, The Writings on the Wall. Now, rather than quoting any of the vocal lines, we've gone for the string parts, the really epic soaring strings, which are actually really sick. Here they are. Very cool. They appear in the trumpets, violins and soprano sax just at the end of verse 2. Here it is in context.
Swept away, I'm stolen. Let the
So we come to the end of the canon of James Bond Eon films, No Time to Die. The film hadn't actually been released when this arrangement came out for various reasons that we don't need to talk about. But as I was arranging it, they released the theme tune. So I was able to shoehorn it in last minute. I think I kind of wrote it in and overdubbed the trumpet parts myself. So it appears in the trumpets. This is the hook from No Time to Die by Billie Eilish. Sounds like this.
There's just no time to die.
Beautiful, simple. Also another theme that's very heavily drawing on the Skyfall sound, so very easy to slot into Skyfall. Here it is in the trumpets. And here it is in context.
Without the security, all your loving arms.
And there we are, all 25 main Bond films. Now we're going to go back and look at some of the bonus tracks, because there's a couple of non-Eon Productions James Bond films, as I'm sure you know, and there are some other little bonus tracks from throughout the series and a couple of fun Easter eggs as well. So let's head back over there and we will continue with some bonus tracks. So the Bond films and Bond themes aren't just all about the main title sequence. There are of course plenty of other musical gems scattered throughout the series. The music is one of the most memorable and most loved bits of the films. First, we're going to jump back all the way to On Her Majesty's Secret Service with the kind of second theme from that film, the Louis Armstrong song, What a Wonderful World. No, We Have All the Time in the World, which is played at the end of that film, quite a memorable moment. I'm quoting the little trumpet line that Lewis plays in between the first chorus and the second kind of pre-chorus bit. Here it is. And it also sneakily kind of blends in from the Living Daylights quote that we had earlier. So here's the Living Daylights smoothly transitioning into We Have All the Time in the World by Louis Armstrong. Pretty cheeky. And here it is in context. Now, if we go back even further to the 60s, there was another Casino Royale film, which was a bit more of a comedy kind of thing. It was a very whimsical thing and had music by Burt Bacharach, performed by Herb Alpert. And I've snuck that one in just because it is a James Bond film, so it felt only fair. It was a really hard one to fit in because it's really jolly and major and very happy sounding. Here is the original. And here it is, sneakily underneath everything else in the bridge. I had to tweak the harmony slightly to make it fit, but I think that's quite nice. Almost sounds like a little Edward Elgar kind of line. Here it is in context as a counter melody in the bridge.
I see, I know I'll never be me without the security. Oh,
Very sneaky. Now, Sean Connery, the original James Bond, once he'd finished doing his Eon Productions films and he'd come back and done one and then gone away again, he then came back and did an unofficial James Bond film called Never Say Never Again. Here is a snippet of the Never Say Never Again theme.
never, never say never again. Never say never again.
Which I have quoted in my arrangement. It appears in the breakdown in the violins. Here it is on its own. And it's there adding a bit of tension, adding a bit of drama to the breakdown. Here it is. Now, there's a bit of music from some of the earlier Bond films called Capsule in Space or Space March, and it's such a cool piece of music. It's a really classic John Barry tension-building moment. Do check it out if you haven't heard of it before. The original sounds like this. The tension never releases in this piece. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, screaming trumpets at the end. It's marvellous. Do check it out. But what I've taken from that is the ostinato, the triplet, and I've snuck it in as an accompaniment figure. It appears in the alto saxes and violins, somewhere in the bridge. Here it is. Less of a quote, more of just using that figure as an accompaniment. Very subtle. I would be surprised if anyone actually spotted it, but here it is in context.
Loving arms are keeping me from harm. Put your hand in mine.
And this chord here is mega.
And we'll stay.
Once more without the vocal. This next one isn't actually a quote, it is the only bit of actual original material in here beyond just chords and pads. It's this little riff here. And that comes from pretending to come up with Bond themes back in the day when I was younger, and that was one of the riffs that I remembered as I was arranging this. Can't remember the name of the Bond film that we'd come up with, but there it is. And finally, there is one quote, one riff, one motif that I've not talked about at all, but it is the defining James Bond motif. It really actually surprised me when I was arranging this, listening through to all these themes, spotting just how many of these songs somehow quote this either in the harmony or in an actual line. And it is, of course, the classic do 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 do, from the 5th to the sharp 5 to the 6th to the sharp 5 to the 5. You can't hear that without thinking of the James Bond theme. It is, of course, going on underneath that twangy guitar riff in Dr. No, and then every theme from then on has been influenced by that harmonically. Even the Skyfall piano at the start has that movement in there. So obviously that is quoted throughout this entire arrangement, but there is a meta quote that I've put in because this chromatic rising and falling thing also appears in a piece of music by Sibelius. The piece in question is called Cassazioni, and it was written in the early 1900s, and it sounds like this. And there's this horn line. Which I have quoted in my arrangement quite brashly towards the end. And if you spotted it, well done, I applaud you. Here it is in the horns. And it comes in underneath the big Goldfinger Gladys Knight mashup quote at the end. Here it is for context with a bar in. And there you have it. There are all of the things that I have quoted in this arrangement. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Let me know if you want me to put out a video that is just the quotes and nothing else. I will also be putting out a video with the score with all of the quotes highlighted for you to follow along to, so that you can really dig in, hear them all. But yes, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you very soon. Goodbye.